Well, that's a bit better. Right, here we got. Right, here we got. Can you hear me all right? Good. Opinions on Lambert. Good addition, but we'll get round to that. It's not all about, it's about topics tonight. You've got a bit of stuff to cover. Obviously, big game on Saturday. Topics tonight. You've got a bit of stuff to cover. Obviously, big game on Saturday. But, yeah. If you can, share the link where possible, because obviously I'm using my phone for this, so. Yeah, I'm hoping to. Whether I do or not, that's another question. So what have people been up to this week then? Looking forward to the game on Saturday? Just give a few more minutes for people to get in. Just going to share it on... what else have we got here? One. Right, still live. Thanks to Amy Downs with the assistance on sharing it. So, you can hear me all right. Let's just go back to the start of the week. So, well, if we say Saturday to Saturday, so good draw against Preston on Saturday. What are people's thoughts about that result? For me, personally, the result was the best we could have got out of that game. If we'd gone and actually won that game, we would have been probably unrealistic going forward about how, you know, what kind of challenge we've got with obviously a new manager and the existing squad that we do have. Cheers, Amy. Do we feel if we had won that game, we might have actually, you know, taken something from it? Yeah, of course we would. But would we have been realistic going forward? So Ben Moore was saying, yeah, look, Saturday is a must-win, which I agree. Get the first one out of the way. The draw is the building block. You get on to the next game and actually get a win. We could potentially do something. Whether or not we can win at Reading is another question, because, you know, they're a good side, but we'll get on to that in a minute anyway. We'll get on to Reading in a minute. So at the start of the week, I asked people on Facebook. We had about 400 responses. We'll get back to that, Amy. Hold on to that one. 400 responses we had. The question was, Alex, yes, players we've forgotten about. Name me those who represented town in the last 10 to 15 years. Test your knowledge. So without really realising, I was probably looking for the most obscure player who played a decent amount of games but has been forgotten in time. So we had some absolute bangers from a lot of people. So the ones that I picked out, ironically, they all played within about 4 years of each other. But I've got Cito, who made 58 appearances and scored 1 goal in a away win at Scunthorpe. Got Ian Miller, who we got from Bury. Ironically, played under Paul Hurst at Grimsby. Maurice Volts, that was a banger. That's 22 appearances. just before he came to town, he played 137 times for Fulham, so, and that was in the Premier League alone. So, and then he got Rory Fallon. He scored 1 goal in 6 appearances, and to be fair, probably one of the most talentless strikers we've ever seen at Portman Road, and that's going quite far. If you put Ballantbiner, no one mentioned Ballantbiner. I'm a bit shocked about that. Felici Shimlakowski, the Macedonian Gerrard. That was a great mention. You got Vermin Brekskard, who was the Norwegian teacher who was signed on a win by Jim Jilton. And, or was it Joe Royal? No, I think it was Joe Royal. Never really made an appearance. Well, he made 3 apparently, but I can't remember it. And that was my first few years as a season ticket holder. And then you got Patrick Kisnorbo, Ivar Ingemarson, Ibrahima Sonko. Those 3 players, you know, played amongst, you know, Reading, Stoke, etc. And then a banger in Stern John, 7 appearances, 1 goal. You know, up there with the best loanies we've ever had. That was a bit of sarcasm. But there's one thing that all these players have in common, and I think it's something that we've had as a problem as a team for the last 10 years. They all came within the last 10 years, and none of them really conquered. And the problem is, obviously, if you get players in, they've got to make an impact. And, you know, there's a list of 10 to 15 players there. Like I said, we had 400 responses, and I'd say we probably had a good 150 different players that didn't make an impact while they were at Ipswich Town. And that's the problem. None of them went on to do anything that was good for Ipswich or anything in their career afterwards. And that it's not surprising given, you know, the calibre of the players and the fact that we were always going for bloody, you know, ex-Premier League rejects. We're not going for the right players. And that brings us to our situation now. We've got some bright young sparks in the side. Given the game time and the support in the right areas. Who would you rather have, J Tab or Jonathan Douglas? I think we know, Alex, who we'd rather have back. It's got to be J Tab, 100%. But you know, given the quality of those players, they've got to do something. So yeah, give them the support, and hopefully we'll go in the right direction. But yeah, 100%, it's got to be J Tab. Can't go on for that. So what about Town this week then? Obviously, there's hardly been any news coming out of Portman Road this week, but you know, given the situation, new manager, game on Saturday, you know, newspapers wise, you don't really get anything between Sunday and Thursday, to be fair. Paul Anderson or J Tab? J Tab. The only reason I say J Tab over Paul Anderson is because even though Paul scored against Norwich in the playoff semi-finals, he couldn't really pass a ball. Ibrahima Sonko or Nziala. It's got to be Nziala, 100%. Alex, you love Anderson, mate. But yeah, Lambert said this week that he's obviously admitted that the squad is a little bit unbalanced, and there's a number of positions we need, you know, to rectify. Now, I don't know what he means by that, but obviously the big one that everyone's really aware of is probably striker. Whether or not we're looking for something in midfield, I'd say wingers wise, we're not looking too bad. But yeah, the main thing is probably get our loan players back in and push forward as a side. Whether or not that happens, you know, remains to be seen, but who knows, to be honest. Alex, I'm going to try to get to Reading, mate, but I don't really think I'm going to be able to get there this weekend, unfortunately. Yeah, there's a lot of things Lambert has done. Lambert invited, obviously, Butcher, Burley and Walk down to the training ground this week, and that shows a touch of class, because even in my time as support, I don't think I've ever seen a manager invite club legends down to the club. Now, as fans, we probably always think that ex-players have the God-given right to walk around the club and be at games, but probably truer, you know, than what we actually know is they pay to go and see that football just like we do, and obviously you get those who appear on the radio and those who work alongside it, but they still in some capacity pay towards the club. And it's nice to be actually recognised, I imagine, from like, you know, John Walk and Burley's point of view. And I know Lambert was a massive fan of John Walk just purely because he was in Escape to Victory. So it's a tough one. It's like you get those legends down, you understand what the team is about, what those kind of players brought to the club back in the day. But you know, for us as fans now, it's nice to see that. But we've not, you know, the younger generation. I'll tell you in a minute. I'll tell you about that in a minute. It's nice to see the legends, you know, mixing with the current staff. But you know, can we make legends of our own under Lambert? You know, can we do that as a team? Can we push forward and do things? You know, do the unimaginable? Yes, Dad. So yeah, Alex, I asked Paul Lambert a question because I was at the AGM last Thursday, and they were like, any questions? And no one put their hands up. But the first guy that did put his hand up, he said, "Oh, when are you going to get Nyden back? When are you going to get Emmanuel back?" I just thought, oh, you know, give the guy a chance. He's only just walked through the door. He probably doesn't even know who those players are. And that didn't get very good response from the panel, because you obviously had Paul Lambert and Stuart Taylor and his coaching staff there, and then you also had a club representative as well, who was there to ask any of the dodgy, you know, answer any of the dodgy questions. And yeah, there was a few people forthcoming, but obviously I was closest to the guy, and it just happened that yeah, I wanted to ask him, you know, to get that one out of the way. It's, you know, what can you do for Ipswich Town? Can you get us out of that mess? And can we push forward? And you know, to be fair to the bloke, he installed a lot of faith in me. That may or may not be easy, but he seemed, you know, the bloke's done absolutely unimaginable things on a pitch. You know, he's won cups, he's won a Champions League. There's all kinds of things that you can do as a player, and Champions League is probably one of the biggest accolades you can do. And you know, he's taken Norwich, whether we like it or not, he's taken Norwich from League One to the Premier League. And you know, whether, you know, I hate Norwich, whether you hate Norwich, you can't be bitter towards the fact that he's done something that's probably unimaginable on a football scale for Norwich back in 2008, 2009 and going forwards. And now, if you think of Norwich, when Norwich were in the Premier League and when Lambert was in charge, and they battered us, they absolutely walked us off the park. And look what he done, he brought in players that, you know, you wouldn't see every day. Let's take Grant Holt, for example, who was playing in the lower leagues, and he came up and played for Norwich. You know, they got promoted from League One, they got promoted from the Championship, and in the Premier League they were a solid side. And to be fair, I think that's the kind of thing we want to invest in, that kind of manager who's going to give us that kind of hope going forward. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in January, because he did say, obviously, he wants to build the squad, but it'd be interesting to see what positions and who he's got in mind. Now, would we be taking a step backwards if we got experienced players in, even on short-term deals, just to get us out of our current state? But Matt, could you repeat your question, mate? How do I feel about Norwich sitting top? I'm not worried about Norwich. I couldn't give a toss about Norwich, to be fair. I don't care where they are in the league, it doesn't matter. It only matters twice. 2 days of the season, we play them, and whether we get a result against them, that's all that happens. So Mac had a question. What was it? I can't... Hold on, let me see if I can see it. Mac said he has 2 good characters on Norwich, Holt and Houlihan. Do we have any Chambers aside? The thing is, like, you take players like Scouse and Chambers and you know, and Barr, like Amy just said there, going forward, do those players actually, you know, they're probably coming to the twilight of their careers. I've said this before. Do we invest in them going forward? do we give them a chance to continue their careers? Because let's be fair, probably for the likes of Scouse, although he may make the odd cameo appearance, he's not 100% every game. And they are the backbone of the team, but do they, or are they going to be present in the future? Because they could be the ones, they could be the ones that are taken out of the side to push forward. Because if you think now that you've got Scouse came in, did Scouse come in under McCarthy? You've got Chambers who's come in and this would be his 4th different manager. Scouse and obviously Chambers have played against each other for a long time. Have the youngsters come through? Yeah, no, they're great. They're great role models, to be fair. Chambers and Scouse are model professionals, absolutely model professionals. And if you read the story this week, obviously about Jack Lancaster, for example, they were, there's 5, Chambers has got 5 youngsters living in his house, including Flynn Downs and Jack Lancaster. Now, Chambers must have a bloody big house, because if he's got 5 blokes in his house, obviously he's got his wife and his kids as well. It does wonders for the club, and Chambers is inspirational, like, you can't deny that. I love the bloke, I absolutely idolise him. Scouse is, up there with my favourite players, but Chambers has obviously picked me a more inspirational captain that you can think of. I can only probably think of Matt Holland in recent years, to be fair. That's actually given us some kind of, belief, or, gets behind the fans, give the fans what they want kind of thing. But, there's been dangerous times, like, for example, last season under McCarthy, there was a lot of, backing the manager here, backing the manager there. And to be fair, like, the fans' relationship with McCarthy had gone 2 or 3 years ago. And it may be a poor decision, players like Jonas Knudsen sticking behind McCarthy, and, they can't do anything but stick behind their own manager at the end of the day. And us fans are going to be there, full time. We're not going to leave the club. But yeah, on that, for example, those kinds of players that come through. Now, if you look in the last 2-3 games, we've had QPR, Millwall, and obviously Preston on Saturday. And during the QPR game, we had Jack Lancaster, and on what Ben Moore was saying there, we have a good academy, so let's use it. I mean, look at the players we've brought through. And he's named a few there. Jack Lancaster has joined the likes of Nydam, Dazelle, Kenlock, Emmanuel, Downs, who have come through into the squad this season. Well, this season, in and about last season, season before. And to be fair, at Millwall, and I don't want to put anyone down. Millwall was an absolutely horrendous game, but there's one person that stood out for me. Actually, 3 players that stood out for me, and it was in this order. It was Jack Lancaster, Flynn Downs, and Andre Dazelle. Now, you may disagree with that, but those 3 players, they were, pick of the bunch in that game. Amy, disagree with Dazelle in that game. He was here or there, but who was better than him? That's what I'm trying to say. Who was better than him? And it's not, I'm not one of those people that automatically goes, oh yeah, Dazelle's a great player, because for me, Dazelle's got to show you a lot more. I think we're just obsessed with the fact that he's following in the footsteps of his father. Have we actually seen, apart from scoring on his debut and 1 pass in a friendly against West Ham, have we really seen what Andre Dazelle can do for Ipswich Town at this moment in time? That's what I'm thinking. And we need to get away from the fact that, yeah, he's a youngster. There's all these things that go, towards him. But like Ben says there, Dazelle is better than Nolan creativity-wise. Well, yeah, you've got a point, but then some people could say Nolan is better than Dazelle. It's just how you look at the pitch. Now, for me, we can't really say these players are better here or better there, because we've only won, in the last 7 months, we've only won 2 games. And one of those just happened to be against Reading. And obviously we've got Reading on Saturday. But we haven't got any room to sit here and say who's been good and who's been bad, because technically all the players in the squad have been bad, because we're in an absolutely shit position in the league. The only thing we can do is get behind them and give them support in those areas. But are those players good enough to get us out of this situation? And that's the scary thought. And obviously, if Lambert's going to make changes in January, he's got a lot of bloody changes to do, and it's who he puts his faith in. Now, one of those players that was brought in by Paul Hurst but never featured was Jordan Roberts. Now, on Saturday, Jordan Roberts, I felt, had a brilliant game up front. Whether or not he made chances, whether or not he scored, he worked hard, and if you were watching on and off the ball, he was in the right areas. He was absolutely, running himself into the ground on Saturday. And, for a player who hasn't played so far this season, he's come out and he's actually showed some players that, you've got your second chance, you can come out and perform now. And to be fair, against Preston on Saturday, we were 100% better than we were against Millwall. And yeah, Chalobah looked a different player, and obviously Lambert's picked him out this week to do a bit of work with, and obviously Lambert's played in that similar position. So having started out as an attacking midfielder, Lambert went on to win the Champions League as a defensive midfielder, and obviously Chalobah's natural position is between probably defence and centre mid. So that'll make him an ideal tutor going forward. Now, for me, Chalobah's needed that guidance because obviously he's come from Chelsea, but is he the kind, is he that kind of player that's already there and thereabouts? Yeah, so Ben's just pointed out, they had an age in defence, but given, obviously, Roberts hasn't had match time, you've got to look at it like this. You can't just throw yourself into a game after not playing all season and perform, because it would just be completely out the blue. Now, I agree with what Lambert did by throwing Roberts in there, because we need that different kind of player, someone who they don't know about, someone who's got a different kind of edge about him. He's physical, he's muscular, he's left-footed. He can take the ball to you and put it in different places. And obviously, we're utilising Freddie Sears a lot more up front now. Obviously, I don't know what people think about, because we've been crying for the bloke to play up front, and obviously, in Hurst's last few games, Freddie's been playing up front, but have we noticed that as soon as Lambert comes in, he's back out on the left-hand side? Do you feel that's because Freddie wants to be there? I don't know. What do you lot think about that one? But obviously, I think I've seen a change in players like Flynn Downs recently. He's become a lot more confident on the ball and going forward. And I think he's the one that I felt, Ollie, you've got a good point there, mate. And do you believe that we're going to sign a good goal scorer in January, given how Evans? See, Mac, to be fair, I was struggling to see whether Evans was actually going to sack Hurst. I'd heard a lot, but I didn't think he was going to do it. And then, immediately we were linked with Paul Lambert, and I couldn't see that being realistic. But then, after a bit of thinking, you can see that's being realistic, and Paul Lambert's taken a massive gamble by coming to Ipswich Town, but obviously one that he thinks can pay off. Now, he wouldn't have done that if he wasn't given reassurances. Now, a 2.5-year deal when the club's bottom of the league shows that Evans is prepared to potentially go down, but whether he's prepared enough to go down will become evident in January and how we spend in January, because we'll either be throwing money at it and trying to get the right players in, or we won't throw any money at it at all. And do we believe that Lambert's got that kind of distribution to find those right players that can get us out of that mess? I don't know. But that remains to be seen. January is not too far away. Where are we now? 8th of November. Got 2 solid months till then. 8 games, 8 cup finals where we need to get wins, and obviously we've got Reading on Saturday. So Reading are currently sitting 5 points above us in 22nd, and their last 6 games have been loss, win, loss, win. Those 2 wins have both come at home in back-to-back victories, and obviously the most recent one on Saturday against Bristol City, where they won 3-2. Now, John Daddy Bodvarsson, who we were linked with 2 years ago, who was claimed to be no sort of striker, has actually scored 7 goals this season. That's 4 less than what we've scored, 5 less than what we scored as a team this season, which is quite frankly embarrassing. but they've got some, they've got some good players. Yeah, we'll get onto that in a minute, Ben. They've got some decent players, and they've got that young French forward, Yakon Meite, who's 22 from France. He's been quite deadly this season, and if we do get on the wrong side of Rennes on Saturday, we'll turn us over. And obviously they've got Paul Clement in charge. You'd argue, is a good manager. To be fair, he's had a bit of a rough going over at Reading. There's been a lot of changes since it got relegated from the Premier League, and it may be 2 or 3 seasons now. Obviously they had Jaap Stam in charge, but he signed on in March this year, and since then they've struggled, to be fair. Since he's taken over, he's won the same amount of games that Ipswich have won in the whole of 2018, and that's 7 games. And to be fair, he's lost double that in charge of Rennes. And I think there's been a few times when he's been called, his head's been called, and he might lose his job at some point, but we don't know that. I don't know anything more about Reading, to be fair. Results-wise, 4 losses from the last 6, quite similar to us, to be fair. They're 5 points above us, but they're only 2 places ahead of us in the league. Can we win on Saturday? I think we can. What are people's thoughts about Saturday then? Do you reckon we can get a result? Ollie, great point. Bart has lost his confidence hugely. Let's talk about Bartosz Białkowski actually, on a quick one. Can you remember when Bartosz first started playing for Ipswich Town? Because the way he's playing now is very similar to when he started playing for us. And up until probably just before the end of the season before last, Bartosz was considered our second keeper, and closely challenged. First you'd say Dean Gerken, closely challenged by Bartosz Białkowski. Now, when did that change? I think it may have been in and around when we lost to would it have been Lincoln City around that time, going forwards. I think it may have been because Gerken made a few hiccups, I think 3 or 4 in a row. And then Bartosz really came into, the #1 spot. Now, Bart was in no way a complete goalkeeper when he came into the squad. He's always been a #2, potentially even a #3, at some clubs. But he built up his confidence in that role. And I think at the start of the season, he'd gone away for the World Cup, but he hadn't really had any match action in that whole time. He's gone away and he's come back and he's had a few weeks off, and he's come back into football and straight into the first team. Can we expect a player to carry his form from the end of one season into another? I think that's very unfair, because a lot of players, they work on consistency through game time. Bartosz came back a completely different player to what he was at the end of last season. You could even argue that, to be fair. But he struggles in the air. He struggles with command in his box, whether that be, a translation issue or confidence against, players who may or may not be higher, taller, stronger. But having played in that position, I'm aware of all those risks that you have as a goalkeeper, and you may have fear in you, but we know what Bartosz Białkowski can do. And without a shadow of a doubt, in my mind, he is our #1 goalkeeper. Now, whether or not that's a position, you really don't know. I say this now, you really don't know where we're going to go as a club in the next few months. We really don't know whether we're going to replace Bartosz Białkowski or sell him, in January, or get another goalkeeper in. We just don't know that, and we don't know where the club's looking to strengthen. And to be fair, when you get all different kinds of managers, let's look, we've had 3 different managers now in the last 6 months. The idea is that all of those different managers have different mindsets, and they will have different opinions on who's a good player and who's, you know, who's not a good player, how you play the game. And that affects those players and it affects the way that they play football. Can we see a lot of those going through maybe their fourth manager at Ipswich Town? Chambers survived 4 managers now. Scouse is probably in the 3s, maybe nearly the 4s. Do we think that those players can acclimatise to Paul Lambert's way of football? Because he's a front foot kind of guy. And as far as I'm aware, in the last few years, we've not played on the front foot, albeit one season where we got into the playoffs. And even then, we weren't really going to, you know, contest those teams that were in the playoffs because we just didn't have enough going forward. So it is scary to think, oh, what's going to happen? But I expect a lot of change in January with the way that Lambert's talking and the kind of situation that we're in, really. But going forward, obviously we've got Reading on Saturday, and obviously then we head into the international break. Wouldn't it be nice to get those 3 points just before that? Obviously that 2-week break, and you know when we come back we can push on. Now, obviously Lambert's got, I think, something like the next 6, we've got 6 home games in a short space of time, I think, just in or around before Christmas. Also we've got Forest and Stoke away. We've got West Brom, Bristol City at home. To be honest, we've got West Brom on the Friday night, and then we've got Bristol City on the Wednesday night within a week. And then we've got the Forest on the Saturday. We've got some real tough games. Like Max just said, they're real tough games, and we need to pick up points where we can. And Preston was an opportunity. Someone said earlier, you know, I would have been happy with a draw at the start. I said that on my videos. If you want to look back at the vlogs, I said I'll be happy with a draw. But the way the game went, I could have seen us beating Preston on Saturday. And if it weren't for, you know, Danny Rowe took that shot on the half volley, and you know that was a hell of a save from Gallagher. It doesn't matter whether he's an outfield player or not. That save kept Preston in the game there, and a lot of people were worried that against 10 men we didn't really show up in that game. But to be fair, sometimes it's harder to play against 10 men, and especially that pressure of having that extra man. What do you do with it? And I think we did keep a few players behind the ball, but we were punting it in there. But like a lot of this season, we've not had players in the right areas, players that can actually score goals, and that's where we're struggling. Because I feel like at times our defence is not too shabby, to be fair. I think we've got some decent players at the back. I think we've been solid at the back. But obviously if you can see goals and you don't score, then you're going to lose games, and that's really why we're down there. I mean, we've drawn 6 games, and we've been in winning positions in 3 of those games. We've been robbed by referees at least twice. We just haven't had a good start to the season, to be fair, and we can't really blame it on anything else other than our own form. So, yeah, to be fair, 3 points on Saturday is a must, and if we can, it'd be nice to push up the table, but obviously still then we'll be bottom, so we need to get those points now rather than later, because it's going to get, you know, we're going to get more and more further down the table as it goes on. So yeah, that's all I've got to say, to be fair. Yeah, betting us, you know, Alex Neil for you straight away. Has anyone got any questions or thoughts that they want to get out there and talk about? No, I take that as a no. I have got one thing for you. What sarcastic chants are you on about? Are you talking about fans in general? Yeah, to be fair, I think we need to get behind the boys, like Amy says there. I've been to a number of games this season, but by no means do I ever, you know, sing songs like that. And I think it's a bit of, you know, sarcasm because we've spent... Nick, every time we speak, mate, you ask about Darren Bent, and I still don't think he's going to join us. He's retired. I keep telling you this. He's not coming back to Portman Road. We need to get behind the boys. We don't need to be sarcastic towards them. And to be fair, if we keep singing songs like that, what's the point in spending the money and going to the football? It's not spending the money and going to be sarcastic and put the blokes down, because that's not going to get us anywhere. We all want to see Ipswich Town win, and what's the point in showing up to do that? I just don't see it. Like, why would you travel the length and breadth of the country just to tell somebody that they're shit? You know, I don't want to see Ipswich Town losing, but I haven't seen them win all year, and I'm still more optimistic now than I ever was before. So yeah, no, to be fair, there's been a lot of, you know, dismay between the fans and how, you know, how each individual, you know, supports a club. But at the end of the day, opinions, football is a game of opinions. The only reason I'm here tonight is because I have an opinion. The only reason you're watching is because you want to get your opinion across. You want to listen to someone's opinion. Football is a game of opinions. But the problem is, when it comes to paying for football and going to football, it's about keeping your opinions to yourself and not getting involved in somebody else's experience, because the experience is what we pay for. If you want to do something, that is completely up to you. But that isn't the idea of the, you know, the whole entire crowd. And we need to set examples to people, the younger fans as well, set an example how to follow your club even when we're down there at the bottom. We need to show that, you know, we've got the best support. And if you look at Millwall, for example, how many, 2,200 fans we took to Millwall. And yeah, it was a shit game. You can't get away from that, but the support was excellent. And if we continue to support our club like that, how can anyone argue that we're not good supporters? They can't, full stop. Follow the town, up or down, that's it, Joshua. Yeah, atmosphere is a big one, Ben, because obviously Blue Action, Max and Rich has started Blue Action, and I'm going to go and sit in the infamous Section 6 next week and see what that's all about next week, week after. Because everyone has obviously preconceptions about, you know, who sits over in Section 6, or whether it's youngsters or troubled schools, whatever. I'm going to go over there and see what it's about, and obviously get involved as well, and you know, sing song, because I do miss a good old sing song sometimes. And to be fair, not everyone's up for it, and you know, if the team do play bad, it does suck. It sucks the life out of me, and I'm sure it does suck the life out of many of you more. But it's probably easier to get, you know, a good vibe going and get a good chant going with your mates than it is to stand there and you know, be sorrowful about how the team are performing. So if you're going to spend your money, enjoy it. That's all I say. At the end of the day, that would be a good one. So I've got a question. So all of you that are listening, let's just go back to the most obscure player. And if anyone can get this in one go, I'll be surprised. So there's many players mentioned. Like I said, probably over 150, but not a single person said this player's name. And I wondered if you could guess it. So this player was a former Intertoto Cup winner and Manchester United star. Can you guess who he was? And he played for Ipswich Town on loan, and he was a defender. And if anyone can get this, you get a gold star and a slap around the head. So if you can't obviously think of it straight away, leave a comment on either Ipswich Fan Zone, on the YouTube, on this video below. Clegg. Who's Clegg? Are you talking about Simon Clegg or Nick Clegg or what? No, I'm talking about a player who played for Manchester United and Ipswich Town, amongst other clubs. And he won the Intertoto Cup. Intertoto Cup finished around 2004. Mac, I was 8 years old in 2000. No, I'm looking more recent. I'm looking more recent. Premier League, he played in the Premier League for a number of seasons. No need to be sorry, mate. If anyone can guess it, then we'll sort something out. But there's got to be someone out there who knows it. But I'll leave that one with you. So, former Manchester United player and Intertoto Cup winner. Played for Ipswich Town on loan. I think he made around 16 appearances. If anyone could get that one, give me a shout. But to all of those who tuned in tonight, thank you, because it's been a good chat, and I'll probably do this a bit more often before games at the weekend. And yeah, it's nice to get all my shirts out. Got me signed 2004, 2005 shirt there. Darren Bent's on there somewhere. Obviously for you, Nick, Darren Bent signed that one, mate, and Chef Kikuchi. So starting bids at £1,000. What else we've got? Daryl Murphy, obviously up here. I don't know if you can see that, to be fair. Let's see if I can show you. You've got your Murphy, you've got your Macaulay. Oh yeah, and you've got the number one over here. Here goes the Ashley Simons shirt, back from Desperados FC. That's all the shirts I've got, mate, to be fair, so I'm not really a hoarder. But yeah, it's nice to have you all on, and thanks for all your points of view, and let's hope we get that win on Saturday. And if Alex is still watching, you know, good luck, mate, on Saturday. Hopefully we get a good result and you can capture that, mate, because I'd love to see it, but I'm not going to be able to get there on Saturday. You know, it's Christmas shopping. Got to get the kids some presents before the big football fixtures come up in the next few weeks. So, yeah, thanks to everyone for watching, and yeah, 3 points on Saturday. Come on, you Blues.